Okay guys, I like bash scripts and so should you, and so I'm going to show you how you can have a automated speed test to create yourself a log file much like this, a nice CSV format, to see the speed test history of your router. So I'm actually using a dedicated Ubuntu 20.04 machine that is connected right next to my router, and I've just connected a direct Ethernet cable and disabled Wi-Fi to ensure that the speed test is as latency free as possible. So I'm going to dive straight in. So as you can see here, we have the CSV, and I'm going to jump straight to the terminal and show you how we got there. So here we have a SSH connection straight into that laptop that I have just by that router, and what I'm going to do is search first for the speed, I'm going to use a apt which is specific to the Debian system. So I'm going to do an apt search. You can do a yum search if you're coming from Red Hat. So I'm going to do an apt search and speed test -CLI. You could actually just search with speed test. It's going to give you the same result anyway, because there's only one in the repository. So now that we can definitely see the file that we definitely want to install, I'm going to go ahead and do apt install speed test -CLI. Now, as you can see, I'm not a root user here. I don't have root privileges, so I'm going to go ahead and use sudo 2 exclamation marks, and that's going to use sudo in front of the last command. I'll go ahead and put in my password, and as you can see, it's already installed for myself, so much easier. Now, I actually already have a speed check script, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that file, and we're going to start from scratch, not to mention also the speed test.log file. Okay, there we go, good to go. So first things first, we're going to create a script. We're going to be using the speed test command. That's what we've just installed and why we've just installed it. It comes with many different options, one of them being the CSV output, which is really beneficial. As you can guess, it gives you all of the outputs in a delimited, comma delimited format that Excel can just read and put directly into its cells and put into a nice organized style. So another function we're going to use is speed test header, and it doesn't do anything other than just give you a simple line of the first row you're going to want in that CSV file. I'm going to use speed test and -CSV header, two greater than symbols to append this into the file that we just created, and then we're going to use speed test.log, and so that's going to go ahead and write that into that text file. If I use cat and speed test.log, we can see, sure enough, we have the start of our CS file, and it's given us a nice fancy tops to our file. Now, if we were to go ahead and just run, I'm just using the up arrow key to go to my previous command, and if we were to just run speed test -CSV, that's going to give us the comma delimited output, and it's going to write into the bottom of speedtest.log. We'll let that do its thing, might take a minute. Okay, so it has completed. Let's go ahead and open up the text file for speedtest.log. Okay, we can see we have the appended output on that file of our current network speed. So we can see it was on the date of the 29th of October. It was at, you just see here, T for time, 5:48 p.m. We have a ping speed of 7.8, we have 51 download speed, and 12 meg upload speed, and that's the server ID. So that was very useful. Now, how do we tell the server, I just want you to do this every hour? Let's do that now. So I'm going to use sudo nano, and I'm going to call the script speedcheck.sh. I'm just using nano. You can use any editor you prefer, V or Vim users. So I'm going to start my script out with a shebang, so that's a hash and an exclamation for us British speakers, /bin/bash, and that's just to tell the interpreter which, that's just to tell the computer which interpreter we are going to run our script in. Go ahead and just run exactly what we just ran. Speed test --csv append greater than, and I'm going to use the tilde, the / to tell you I want it to use the file that's in the home directory. We're going to use the speed test and .log, and that should literally be it. I'll do a Control O because I'm using nano to and enter to write it, and then I'll use a Control X to exit. Let's just check on that file. We'll do a cat speedcheck.sh to see the file. We can see that's how we want it. You know, actually, now while that we're here, I just want to put the full path of that program to ensure that I don't run into any errors, because I'm using crontab for the automation. Sometimes it likes its file path, so I'm just going to put that in there just in case. Now that we have the script, if we were to do ls/ and speedcheck.sh, we can see here that it only has read and write permissions, so it doesn't have execute permissions. Also, it's grey, which means it doesn't have any fancy executables. So if we just run chmod +sign and an X for executable that we are going to add to this file, and then go ahead and do speed check. I'm just using the tab there to do an auto completion so that I don't have to manually type it, and I've pressed enter. Changing permissions not permitted, so I'll just do sudo 2 exclamation marks, and sure enough it's used sudo in front of the last command, and it's given permissions to the script. So now if I do ls/ speed check.sh, you can see it's displayed it as green, executable, and it's got an X here. It actually has given executable permissions to all users. So if anyone got their hands on this file, anyone has permission to execute that file. Generally, I would get more in depth and pin it to just myself or the root to use, but in this circumstance, that's fine. So now we have our file, we have our script, and so I'm going to go into crontab and -E to edit that. The first time you're going to do this, it's going to ask you for your preferred editor. I use nano, which is 1. I prefer it. Obviously you'll have your own preference. Now here you can see I have already added a file, and so what I've added is a wildcard and a 5.5, and that means it's going to run every 55 minutes. For the moment I'm going to leave it as a wildcard just so that it runs every minute. And as you can see, we've used the home directory, so we've used home, my username, and my script. So I've given it the full path of that script. It's very fussy in here. If it is wrong, it won't run. But it's fine because we have it as every minute. So I'm actually going to show you how we'll see that we can confirm that it has definitely ran that script. So I'll do a Control O, enter, Control X, exit. That program now is programmed to run at every minute. If I were to do a systemctl, a status, and a cron.service. That will let me know if that cron service unit job is currently running. Here, yes, sure enough, we can see it is active, and we should have a good history of what has actually happened. So here you can see I've just recently made changes to that cron system. Once you edit, save, and exit that cron editor, it will initialize that file to be run by crontab. So in this case, I'm going to check on our speed file. If you remember, we only had one actual line from the test. So if we have two, we know that it's ran again and it's given it an additional test, and that crontab has successfully completed. So I'm going to do not an ls, but I'm going to do a cat. And yeah, just within the time that we've been talking, we can see that there are two additional tests that have been completed. If I were to get a little bit fancy, use a watch-n and maybe a 0.5, half a second, and then we'll do a cat and a speed test.log. Now we should see the actual line being written onto the bottom of that file. Okay, there we go. We can see that an additional line has been written to the file, and it took about 30 seconds to complete. So we know that the script is running. We know the system service crontab unit job is running. So that all seems fine. Now all that we need to do for ourselves right now is just move that file to ourselves locally. So if I run, if I exit out of this and use my Ubuntu WSL, so this is locally on my Windows PC. This is allowing me to have a Ubuntu system on my local system. I can go ahead and use SCP, which will allow me to grab that text file that is just created. I'm going to do the username on that server of the laptop, and I know what the IP is of this. If you did need to know the IP, because you may not know, I can go onto the server terminal you can see here, and I can do IP adder show, and you can see here for the ENP, which generally is the Ethernet, I have the IP address of 192.168.1.65. So I'll go back now, and sure enough, I've put the username of that PC, the IP address of that PC, and use the two dots for the specify the location of the file that it is that I want to grab. I can use the tilde to show that it's the home directory that I want, and the / and the file name, speedtest.log, a space and a period, and that period is just going to say I want that file there, and I want it right in my current location of this shell and its path directory. So I'll press enter on that. It's just going to ask me for my password, and you can see that has been successful. Normally you'll have a bit more time just to see the progress of the file, but here you can just see it's such a small file, it's just instantly been transferred. So now that I have it locally, I should be able to do ls.log, and there is the file. So let's do cat speed test.log, and we can see that is the one that we wanted. So now I actually want to move this to my computer, my Windows PC to be more specific. So I'm going to use this move command. I'm going to do speedtest.log, and on a Ubuntu WSL, which I absolutely don't like, it's mount c users name and on this I'm just going to put into the music directory because it's empty. I'm also going to specify the name of the file, but I'm going to end it with a .csv so that Windows understands it's a CSV file. Windows likes to use the extension of file names to know what a file is, whereas Linux doesn't require the extension to know what it is. So the move command is going to actually rename the file. Sure enough, that's been successful. I'm going to go here, and you can see my music directory has a speedtest.csv file. We'll go ahead and press and open that file. Right, so I just need to close down this current one, and let me just jump back here, and double check that, and there we go. Excel has automatically formatted that text into each cell because it's delimited, and that makes it really easy for us. I'm going to go ahead and select the top columns, double click, nice resizing of the format, and we can see our download speed, our upload speed, our ping speed. Apparently there's a distance with this speed test. Server ID is a lot more detailed than perhaps I need, but more importantly the time of when that speed command had ran. I'm going to go ahead now and tell that script to stop, or actually more accurately I am going to change the time of when that command runs, because I want it to run every hour. So for me, I actually just use the 5.5. I just prefer this to doing it over a /0 for every hour. So I'm going to go ahead, write that file there, Control X, and you can see here it actually tells you crontab installing new crontab, so it's actually initializing that file. Now whenever the next hour happens, I'll probably come back, double check it's actually ran that test, and I should be good to go. For anyone that wanted to go further with this, typically it would be a lot easier if you mounted a cloud storage onto your Linux system and then just told it to move that CSV into that cloud repository storage unit, and then that would allow you to just mount that file onto your Android system too and give you an update of whenever you wish to see, as long as you have an internet connection, which would be very useful. Which I will probably do, but for the sake of this video I won't include. But yeah, that's it. Enjoy, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.